Not even the ground beneath your feet is yours.
There's a weird feeling you get when you replay any chapter of Poppy Playtime. Once you already know how things end, moments that once felt organic, now almost deliberate. Enemies that could have killed us don't. Encounters stretching on longer than they need to. And somehow, no matter how deep we go into the factory, we keep moving forward. After a while, it starts to feel like we're not escaping from anything. We're just being allowed to continue. Go all the way back to the beginning. Huggy Wuggy watches us. Long before the chase even starts, he plays a game of appear and disappear and reappear, allowing us to progress while keeping a close eye on us from the shadows. When Huggy finally pursues us, it's a chase scene that continues to push us forward instead of stopping us or turning us around. It almost feels like a form of pacing, or at the very least, like he's trying to steer us in the right direction. And looking back now, it feels like the first time the game tests how we react under pressure. Chapter 2 makes this much harder to ignore. The game station, though it may appear like a playground, isn't actually designed for fun. We learn that they were essentially tests disguised as games, and they were used to sort out which orphans should move on to experimenting. More specifically, the Bigger Bodies Initiative. And Mommy Longlegs treats us exactly the same way. Rules, trials, progression, she forces us to play instead of killing us outright. Only after the games end and the system she was following breaks, does she finally stop playing and try to kill us. And when she meets her end, the prototype appears, not to stop us, just to take part of her body away and leave. The encounter ends, and once again, we're allowed to continue. After this, the same structure keeps showing up. Huggy forcing movement instead of ending things early, Mommy forcing rules and structure before violence. Even the first enemy we encounter in Chapter 3 tries to say this before attacking us.
Wait, I recognize you. Yes, I remember. You used to work here. How are you? Alive. Barb? Oh. Barb says you're looking for your co-workers. Catnap wouldn't like that you're here. You should leave. For your own safety.
You should leave. For your own safety.
Once again, we choose not to listen, and eventually she makes her move. If you look at Chapter 3 as a whole, Catnap even watches us from the shadows the entire time, even warning us once we reach the guidance counselor's office. While hallucinating from the red smoke in Home Sweet Home, we turn around at one point to spot him peeking from around the corner of a hallway. But he doesn't pursue us, he just keeps watching. The first time in Chapter 3 that he interacts with us directly is at the end of the guidance counselor section, and even then he only gives us this warning. And then once again, we don't listen, and that's when our enemy makes their move. Once Catnap finally fights us directly, something changes. The pattern breaks, and that's when the prototype kills him. That's something important to note. We don't actually defeat Catnap. Much like when he was younger before the experimenting, he's almost killed by a green power glove, which is how we attempt to take him out during the fight. He does burst into flames and run around for a minute, but then the fire goes out and he's still alive. Even though out of every staff member or experiment that's ever been in that factory, Catnap is the only one who worshipped the prototype and revered him as a god. You have to remember the pattern I'm pointing out. What did Catnap do? Huggy Wuggy originally guided us, until he needs to pivot us through the vent towards the poppy flower, where suspiciously there's a box on a ledge with colored hands, almost like it was put there intentionally. But Huggy seems to have gotten overzealous and falls to his demise. For now. Mommy Longlegs only ever faces us with rules, structure, and instruction. At the end of every game, she's actually disappointed. She knows she can't kill you like she'd like to, but she knows if she allows it to happen organically through the games, aka some of the tests that we're being put through, then she won't be blamed if you meet your demise. And then, Catnap only ever watched us from the shadows, guiding us a little bit possibly, but ultimately warning us when it seemed like we just weren't going to leave. He's a couple feet from us in that scene, and chooses to warn us instead of get rid of us, even though he is the right hand and follower of the prototype. And when he does finally attack us, it's not in a room that he left for us. Poppy describes how we're supposed to defend ourselves in that situation. Catnap just makes a move on us, and when we technically don't defeat him, the prototype still viewed this as stepping out of line. 3 characters, 3 chapters, all bound by limitation, whether they were instructed not to harm us or if it was their own instinct. Either way, the moment they truly pursue us, all 3 of them meet their end. We're gonna see what happens with Huggy, but you get the idea. It's very possible that Huggy met his end and then the prototype either saved him or revived him, who knows. But none of that to me is the smoking gun. There are plenty of holes you can poke in all 3 of those characters and what they did, until you get to chapter 4 and we meet Harley Sawyer, the Doctor. Follow me on this one. You might rethink chapter 4 or even replay it after this. Harley Sawyer doesn't treat us like an enemy the way the rest of them do. He talks more like he's speaking to another experiment. He even repeatedly calls us the subject. He describes fear like it's something to be measured.
The subject scrambles for an advantage. They appear lost and disoriented. Heavy breathing is indicative of fear, and rightly so. Let's test the response to said fear when pushed into action.
Do you remember the start of this video? Now you may know what I'm about to say, but if not, get ready. Have you ever noticed this callback?
Not even the ground beneath your feet is yours. Not even the ground beneath your feet.
The second time around it feels different, doesn't it? Why did he say it twice? Almost like he knew it would come full circle. He already knew we were going to make it past Yarnaby and the nightmare critters and every single obstacle that chapter had for us, even the Sarly Hoyers. And he knew we'd be standing right there in front of him to say it again. And then he literally pulls out the ground beneath our feet, but hey. But that means something. The entire environment and everything we're going through is a setup. He's creating conditions and simply watching what happens next. You could get specific if you want to. Quick thinking and problem solving when we're taking the valve handle across the red smoke. Evasion and moving in the shadows when we're running from Yarnaby. Action under pressure when we're running from the Sarly Hoyer robots. Honestly, have you ever stopped to think about how many things are out of bounds in this game? I mean, it's one thing to find a VHS tape on the ground anywhere. I mean, those can move pretty easily. But have you ever considered how often we climb through a crack in the wall and somewhere on the other side we find an entire TV and VCR setup? You could write that off as a game mechanic. Or you can consider the fact that somebody always seems to know when we're going to deviate from the path and when we're going to follow it directly, because the whole thing is one big test. So in summary, across every chapter, the same idea keeps surfacing. The factory tested the orphans through the games, Harley tests subjects through experiments. And now, whether intentionally or not, the player may still be inside that system, still moving forward, still being watched. Even Poppy said,
Prototype knows we're coming by now. You try to escape, He'll kill you before you ever reach that front door.
Well, Poppy, then for 4 chapters, why hasn't he? Why did his right hand tell us to leave? Why did Miss Delight tell us to leave? Why did the doctor say he's gonna make a game out of us? Because let's be real here. If we weren't meant to make it this far, then we wouldn't have. So good luck to all of us in the next test, because Chapter 5 is only 1 week away.